Welcome. My name is Mark Anthony Dubose Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. I'll say thank you for tuning in to try to figure out some more about your dogs. Because there's some stuff that I want to talk about today that is going to be probably challenging for a lot of people to hear. And you're probably not going to quite really understand exactly what I'm saying. But I just have to say it so that you just have heard it and maybe heard something a little differently than you've ever heard before. To hopefully be able to get what I want to say is a basic level of success. I'm not here to teach you how to get a dog to go and win some national champions or any of that. I'm here to just communicate to people that just simply want to have human-dog relationship and just hang out and just be able to just say, hey, I don't want you to do that. Hey, stop that. Hey, can you just come here? Hey, and just simple, easy way of living. And that simple, easy way of living comes down to being very simple ways of living with the dog and doing with the dog and just everything about the dog. And I think something that is complicating a lot is the concept of the certain techniques that we do. And I just keep listening to video after video of everyone saying about how to build that relationship. And there's two sides of it that majority of everything out here is stating. And I understand both sides, but both sides to me, I have a very good understanding that both sides are negative to the dog on how to build a proper relationship. And the method I want to talk about today is play. Everyone says you want to build a good, solid relationship with your dog, start to play with them. And that's something that I'm going to say is almost in reality, like weird. It's very foreign to a dog to play with us. This is new. Our dogs play is what I'm doing with my Shepherd right now, what I'm doing with my Dalmatian right now. We're out, we're doing what we're doing. My dog is sniffing. He's just doing what he's doing. He's playing. He's having a good time. He's living in the world. This is play. And this is something that is confusing in the world because play today is considered like grabbing a ball, grabbing a tug, and doing all this stuff, and that's very, very new. And something that comes down to that other type of play, where to tug and to play and all that, it's great if you know what you're doing. And if you don't know what you're doing, it could set you up for absolute mass destruction. And I'm going to say that simply because any competent trainer out there is going to say what they're doing with the dogs when they are playing with the dogs, with the ball, with a tug, with anything. They are activating the dog's drive to get the dog into a level of frustration, to get the dog to, like, say, perform more. So what we're doing is essentially frustrating the dog to get it to know what to do. So you're frustrating the dog to get it to sit. You're frustrating the dog to get it to down. You're frustrating the dog to get it to come back to you. You're frustrating the dog to play fetch with you. And that's, at the end of the day, a negative thing. Frustration isn't ever a positive thing. That if someone would say to me that being in a high level of frustration is a cool thing, like, I don't know where you're from, because for me, I don't want to be in frustration. I want to be in clarity. I want to be very, very easy understanding. Kai, we can't go off trail, man. It's snake season, man. I want to be in a very, very, very smooth, easy way of being able to communicate. Something as simple as that right there. He's going off, and I just don't want him off trail now in this season because it's just snake season. And he's just like, oh, okay, well, let's just get back on trail. Very clear, very clear. That's the communication that I want with my dogs. Not something that I have to build the dog into a high level of frustration to get the dog to be able to maneuver and being able to do. Because that frustration is going to start to create hostility. And that hostility is going to start to create disobedience. And disobedience is where, unfortunately, majority of people's dogs are. Your dog doesn't listen to a single word that you have to say. Because I think that play is a powerful thing. When I'm talking of going to the tug and going to all that. And again, if you know what you're doing. And this is something that takes time. And something I said in my last video, and I'm a firm believer on, because it is what it is, that I continue to keep on listening to by a lot of trainers that are just straight up honest. I like listening to people that are honest, because there's some people out here that are like, my stuff's all perfect and all this, and my dogs are all great. No, you've messed up a dog or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. You've messed some up trying and doing what you're doing. You grabbed you a tug, you grabbed you a ball, started playing with the dog, and you messed that dog up. And you didn't get what you wanted. You got a dog that is super erratic, a dog that is super reactive, and you just went downhill. You made it go backwards. And then you got better on the next one, the next one, the next one. You just kept getting better and better and better to the point that now you're like, say, the professional, because now you've gained your skills to be able to do what you do. And this is where things are complicated, because just because that person knows what they're doing doesn't mean you could teach it to someone, because that person is also going to mess up a dog or 3 or 4 or 5. And depending on your motivation level, you're just straight up never going to get it, because a dog trainer is going to continue to keep on wanting to do more because they love the dog that way, that they want to do more with it. So of course they're going to run into a situation that they're just not going to quit. But most people, you can't do that. So what you're doing with your dog is getting your dog's drive activated to be able to get the dog frustrated to do something for you. And that frustration is cool, again, when you're using it correctly. But when you're not using it correctly, that's where you start getting a dog that is reactive, that it's impulsive. And that's the word that the dog training community likes to use is impulse control. So we're going to use the ball to create impulse control in the dog. But if you're not doing it correctly, you're going to create the dog to be impulsive, to not have any sort of control, to be explosive, to be just straight up savagely reactive because the dog isn't quite understanding what's going on here. So when you're teaching the dog these methods on how to get them to walk correctly with you, you're teaching your dog how to be just savage, man. You're teaching the dog how to go crazy. You're teaching the dog how to activate. You're teaching the dog how to go wild, as opposed to teaching the dog to do nothing. And that's something that I just want to talk about with when I keep on saying, and my main theme is do nothing. And do nothing, and straight up, don't play with the dog. Don't give the dog no treats. Don't pet the dog. Don't do nothing with the dog, but just be with the dog. And then the do something part is just do something as part of just go for a walk. Just go to the park. Just sit on the couch. Just hang out. Just relax. Just be with the dog and be around and just that's the part that I say do something. And removing all of the like straight up foreign things from the dog. If it's not in nature, don't give it to the dog. You want to play with your dog, go grab you a stick outside and throw the stick and have the dog come and get it to you. That's what I want to basically say. If it's man-made, just stay away from it from your dog for a while. Because more than likely, what you're doing with that man-made tool with that dog is creating that dog to do everything that you don't want it to do. And you're not thinking of it that way. You're thinking of, oh, I'm trying to help my dog. I saw this video and they were playing tug with the dog and everything was good to go. But if you're not playing tug with the dog in the correct way, and the dog is getting into frustration, and you're thinking, oh, it's getting more intense, and he's letting all this energy out, it seems positive because, say, dog got tired, right? But it's not positive in the sense that now the dog is only tired because it's frustrated. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, that's fun. Day 5, 15 of a board and train, it's cool. But 3 months later, the dog is, man, it's mad. It's mad because all it knows is a high level of frustration. And that's all it's working off of is frustration. And that's why the dog has to blow up. It has to explode. It has to go crazy because it has all this frustration in it that we're creating. And again, if you know what you're doing, good. But that doesn't just happen overnight. That's not something that just you learn how to do in 15 minutes. You take a little course, you watch a couple of videos, and I know how to treat, train, and toy play with my dogs to get them to do what I want. It's not that simple. And everyone tries to make it look, oh, it's just this easy, but it's not that simple. Because if it really was that simple, everyone would be having amazing results right now. Everyone's dogs would just be the most premium dogs right now. But the main thing I want to say is what I want to introduce as simple is stop all of it. Stop it all. Stop the treats and stop the toys. Stop what you want to call as playing with your dog for a little bit to see what happens. See what happens. You're going to say, oh, my dog's it's going to build too much energy and I got to let the energy out. And what do I do with all this energy? Allow the dog to express that energy on leash, just hanging out with you. And the dog is going to let it go. It's going to get its natural impulse control inside of its system, not some artificial, fake, manifested looking crazy wild stuff that we think that we're building in the dogs. Because you want the dog to naturally on its own know how to regulate its emotions, not out of frustration, but out of what I'm going to say is positive, the natural chemical makeup of the dog inside of it to be able to do what it needs to do on its own. They're able to self-regulate themselves. They do not need a game to regulate themselves. They do not need food to regulate themselves. They can do it on their own. And this is something that, again, is kind of hard for a lot of people to hear because how many people today are on some sort of medication and some sort of this to try to feel better? But in reality, we can do it on our own. Yes, there's that one-off thing. Like you can say, oh, my dog has a thyroid disease and that's why it's, yes, there's that like 0.00% of a dog out there. Same with humans. There's that 0.00, you got this one rare thing that I have to use medication and my dog is like this. Yes, there's always going to be that one. But as far as the 99.999% of all the other dogs, it's a matter of the dog is able to self-regulate itself. The dog doesn't need all this extraness to try to calm it down. It can do it on its own. And the more that because the main thing is we're, say, sheltering the dogs. The more that you're doing that to the dog, the harder and harder it's going to be for that dog to finally just one day just relax and let it all go. And that's why we're constantly like, seems like we're just working backwards every single day. It just keeps getting worse and worse as opposed to getting better and better. So the one thing that I want to say that I know is simple, the way that I know that people just have dogs and just simply have dogs is not doing any of that. And again, you're worried and wondering, and oh my goodness, I'm a bad dog person, but dog owner if I don't play excessively with my dog all the time. And I'm going to say to you, if your dog is doing that out of frustration, you're abusing that dog straight up. You're getting that dog to be angry. You're getting that dog to be in a fit of rage. You're getting that dog to activate that drive to want to go and do something crazy. And that's not healthy. That's very cool if you're playing a dog sport, if you're doing something of extreme to get the dog to need to be able to do something. But as far as just your everyday person, your everyday things with your dogs, this is why I love doing what I'm doing with this shepherd right here. Could I do all the nice stuff to create him to do all these beautiful stays and these beautiful sits? Yes, but I don't want to do that purposely just to show you that everyone can have a dog that looks like that. Every single person on the planet, because I don't do anything but just take him for a walk. He's playing right now. He's doing what the true sense of play is with your dogs. He's able to just explore, he's able to do, he's able to be, he's able to just be in his his most absolute love of life right now. And that's what we want our dogs to be able to get into, to be able to be a nice dog for us. And it has nothing to do with all this extraness. The extraness is really just messing so many people up right now. And you think that you're helping, and you're listening to what other people have to say about, oh, you got this and you got this, as opposed to just listening to what your gut instinct says to yourself. Because most cases, someone that finds my video and is listening to this, and you're still listening to this right now, everything that you've been doing, something inside of your intuition is screaming, I don't like this. I don't know what's going on. And then you're like, I'm trying to find someone that's almost like speaking against it in a way. And I'm not a person to say I'm going to speak against it. I'm just going to say a person to say that it's just not for you. What they're doing over there, what they got, it's for them. But for you, you want something different. And I'm here to basically offer someone that's something different. And that something different is taking like 1,000 steps back and just hanging out with the dog. And stop putting all this extraness into the dog. Stop playing with the dog's drives when you have no idea what you're doing. This stuff is straight up, I'm going to say it at the end of the day, it's for the professionals. The professionals make it look good. I know how to do some toy stuff with these dogs. So I've done it with many dogs, and I've messed many dogs up myself on doing the toy stuff. And I had to work backwards and fix it and spend a lot of time on dialing things back again because I messed some things up. And I know how to do that because I've done that lots of times now. And I can make it look so easy. It's the simple way that I can put a leash on a dog and stand in one place and I make it look easy because I've done this so many times. But can you do that? I'm going to straight say more likely not, because you're not looking, you're not 100% sure what you're looking for. You're looking at one thing, but then you're not really getting, you're not seeing the whole picture, where I'm already knowing what's going to happen because I've seen it so many times happen that I'm already prepared to move to that next thing that's about to happen. And if you don't understand that, you're moving backwards. And that's why majority of stuff today is you're moving backwards. Because you're like, I need to try this way to do it now. I need this clicker now. I need this toy now. I need this method now. I need this way now. And all you're doing is building more and more and more frustration to the point that that's why you're butting heads with your dog. Because it's at a point that it's just like, it has no idea what's going on. It has no idea anything. You're coming in with all this foreign things to the dog. And the dog's like, what do you even want from me? And that's where you're struggling. And you're struggling in a way that it's almost, I don't know how to say it, but in some cases it's set up to be that way, to make sure that you constantly needing some sort of support, as opposed to just taking all that away. And stop listening to what anybody's got to say to you. Stop listening to what the background noise is. Stop listening to that. Because the main thing is, when someone else's dog is in chaos, I don't know why the world is this way, but I just got to give a little life lesson right now. Everybody wants your stuff looking like trash. They don't want you looking better than them. That's just the way this world is. And maybe someone could come up with a reason on why it is that way, but even your own family, they want you to be worse than what they're doing. It brings people like a sense of accomplishment, knowing that their stuff is better. Their stuff looks nicer and your stuff is chaos. And it's something weird about that. So that's why for me, I just say, stop listening to what anybody has to say and start listening to what it is that you are looking for, you have to say, you got going on. Because more than likely what you are thinking is more likely right. What someone else is trying to shove upon you, that's what's going to confuse you and make things more and more complicated for you. And it's something that at the end of the day is so simple. It's so simple. But yet we run away from the simple stuff and try to go towards that complex stuff, thinking that complex stuff is what's going to be able to bring us some sort of satisfaction. But in reality, it just straight up, it isn't. And it isn't in a way that a lot of people are struggling today. You're struggling to the point that you just don't know, you don't have any clue what's going on with your dog. Your dog is just running an absolute fool. And the main thing I'm going to say with that is because you're doing techniques that you don't even understand. If you don't understand the whole concept and the cycles of what the drives are in the dog, how to activate each drive, how to satisfy each drive, how to shut each drive down, how to do different things with each drive, you working backwards, beyond backwards, because you're trying this and trying that, and you ended up absolutely nowhere. And it's something that is unfortunate, but again, almost made by design in a way, I'm going to say. But the thing is, I want a lot of people to just really understand, most of the toy play, most of the play that we do with dogs is based out of frustration. And that frustration is not a positive thing for the dog. It's a negative thing to the dog. And that frustration, if it's not trained correctly, can turn into your can turn into your dog starting to do absolutely wild, savage, crazy stuff, because that frustration is not a healthy thing for the dog. It is something that is very, very toxic to the animal. And that's why when the dog sees another dog, which goes into frustration, it's going to start to bark and lunge and go absolutely crazy, because it has this frustration that it doesn't actually know how to let out. But the main thing is you're teaching it to let it out. You're improperly teaching the impulse control in the dog. Of when the dog gets frustrated, you give him the toy. And then the dog's like, oh, heck yeah. So if I just get wild and crazy, you'll give me the toy. So when the dog sees dog, it thinks, oh, if I just go wild and crazy, you'll allow me to be able to go see the dog. And the dog's like, puts a two in its brain, like, oh, okay, well, I'll just look crazier and crazier every single time, so that I'll be able to just continue to keep on getting every single dog that I want. And then that's why you're not seeing anything go away, because you're teaching the dog to activate its frustration to get what it is that it wants. And that, again, you're working backwards. And that's something that if you don't understand what I'm saying, you for sure need to stop playing with your dog right now, because you need to do a whole lot more research on getting a way more understanding on what the drives are of the dog, and how to get the dog out of that frustration to turn it into something that is a level of positive excitement. And that is, at the end of the day, I'm going to say something that is pretty complicated to do. It's not simple. It's something that you need to, for one, video yourself watching and playing with your dog. And two, really sit back and watch that, and not watch yourself and what you're thinking in the moment, but watch the dog. See what the dog is looking like. See what the dog is doing. See if the dog is like really having a good time out of, like, say, fun and enjoyment, or is it having a fun time out of just like rage and anger? Because in reality, in the moment, our dogs could be in rage and anger, and it looks exciting. It looks cool. It looks really neat. It's like, oh, they're having a good time. But later on, when you watch someone else's video, or you watch yourself later, you're going to say to yourself, like, wow, my dog actually looks really mad. Like, that's why it's jumping on me to get the ball. That's why it's barking at me to get the ball, because it's actually mad at me right now. It's got past that point of it being like exciting fun. Now the dog is just mad. That's why he's chewing on me to try to get me to drop the toy. He's mad at me. Why? A dog, fun excitement is going to sit there and be like, oh, hey, let's go. But a dog that starts to get like mad, he's going to do some things to make you hurry up. He's going to do some things to make you like, just, you better do it faster. You better give it to me more. You better do. They're pushing you around because they're getting mad. And when you're training the dogs like that and working with a dog like that, why would you think that the dog is just going to all of a sudden one day just snap out of that, as opposed to just keep activating that all the time, thinking that that's what you want? So when the dog starts to get excited over other dog, it's like, oh, this is what you want. And this is where it's complicated with dogs, because they are not as intelligent as human beings, where a kid and a human can process the difference between these scenarios, but a dog just can't. And that's something that a lot of people just don't want to talk about. They think that it's okay to do it here, but the dog won't understand it over there. It don't work that way. It just doesn't. It does in a way that if you have a specific, this takes time, patience, and consistency over and over and over of doing something to convince the dogs of, it's okay to say, for instance, how I do with my dog here, it's okay to track at home. He can track and he can detect and he can look and he can search, but he can't do it out here. This is taking time every single day, because I can't have him on nose down and looking for a squirrel right now, because this dude would be gone. He'd be gone out here. And that's something that if you're not willing to put all that time, effort into, I mean, this is hardcore dedication to get the dogs to understand the differences, then you're stumbling and fumbling. That's why your dog is activating at other dogs. It's looking like it wants to, it's building up frustration. It starts with excitement. It builds up that frustration. That frustration turns into what looks like rage. And that's why your dog is barking like a freaking crazy madman at other dogs when it sees them, because it doesn't understand what it is that you're looking for. It has no idea. It doesn't see the differences here. It sees it all being the same. And that's why most dogs, this is why I really want a lot of people to video your dogs when they're acting like this. Most dogs, when they get out of that said reactive barking and lunging, they look back at you like they just did the world's greatest thing on the planet. Like they're so freaking happy. Even the scared dogs, they look back at you like, oh yes, I did it, man. I made it go away. I did what I did, you know, thank you. Like, thanks, mom. You know, we're working as a team here together to make this happen. And the dogs just look so freaking happy. And that's where you got extreme high level of confusion going on. So this is why I say to stop. The concept of do nothing, but to do something with just hanging out with dog. Take your dog for a walk and have nothing with you. Stop like playing any sort of games. Even when I say let your dog sniff, just let him sniff. Don't turn it into, okay, let's do it. Okay. Just allow the dog to smell and just move on with life. And allow the dog to just be able to be around and just move on with life. Stop trying to turn every little thing into like these, I hate saying it like that, but it's a horrible thing that we've turned dog training into. Let's turn everything into a game. It doesn't need to be a game. It just needs to be life. Our life that we live as human beings on this planet, this isn't a game. We're living. Every little thing isn't just some simple little game. Imagine if everywhere we drove was a game. How many people, half of us wouldn't make it home if we turned driving into a game. The stuff that we do on a day-to-day is just living. It's not meant to be games. And I think that that's where a lot of us are struggling, that we're playing with dogs in a straight up, the only way I can say it is an inappropriate way. The dogs do not understand what the heck we're doing to them. And we're doing just evil stuff to them. We're inappropriately playing with their emotions and playing with their drives and playing with their everything inside of them to try to get them to do stuff for us. And then you wonder why the dog is just acting like an absolute fool. And that's something that, again, a lot of people just, I don't know why I'm not talking about the concept of knowing how to properly play with a dog and knowing how to do it in a way that's going to actually benefit it, as opposed to leading it into frustration to do something. Because a lot of these videos that everyone's showing with the beautiful looking heel work and all these awesome looking sit stays and they're just all around all these distractions and all this, those are not like hangout dogs. Those dogs are in a command. They are controlled and managed to the point that it's destructive, that they're always in a command. They're always performing and they're doing it over and over, and they're doing that out of frustration. So once that dog is finally free, that dog is not the same anymore. It's not acting like that. And it's something that a lot of people just really need to just look more, study more, and pay more attention to. Because something that is going on with a lot of this stuff is it's showing you that, oh, you can use a toy to get the dog to do, you can use a treat to get the dog like this. And you see the dog is like so hyper, it's so jazzed up, it's in a high level of drive. And at the end of the day, do you want that all day? Do you want your dog, when you say sit or wait at the door before they go out the door, to just be sitting there on an absolute rampage, ready to just bolt out of that door as soon as you say free, okay, or whatever your release word is? Is that what you want every day? That when you're ready to eat, your dog is just on a rampage, just like, give it. And then you finally say, okay, and your dog just bursts into intense amount of speed and intensity to just go ahead and get and do what it is you said to do. That is a horrible dog to live with. That is a beautiful dog to have for sports competitions. And that's something that, again, majority of dog training stuff is for sports competitions. It's not for your just everyday, I want to hang out with my dog. If you want to hang out with your dog, please just listen to something I'm going to say right now. Hang out with your dog. Just hang out with your dog. If you want to hang out with your dog, hang out with your dog. If you want to take your dog for a walk, just take your dog for a walk. Stop adding anything extra, because that's what's more likely creating your dog to end up in a bad case. Because I'm going to say, can you do all these things to have a nice dog? Maybe. Some people may get lucky with doing it on their first dog, and then they think they're a dog trainer for hire to put out. But their second, third, fourth, fifth dog, they mess one of them, three of them, five of them, they mess all their dogs up. Some people are for hire for dog trainers, and all their dogs are messed up. And they thinking that they're going to help someone out. But yet their dogs are just an extreme hot mess. I mean, just extreme control, extreme management to be able to do anything with them. And they're out there trying to help you with your stuff. That's something to really pay attention to with what it is that we should be paying attention to at the end of the day, because it's something that is just, it's, I know so many people that are dog trainers, they don't even have a dog and never even owned a dog. If you've never lived with one, if you've never dealt with a dog that is wanting to bite another dog's face off at the end of the leash, how do you know how to help someone? How do you know what they're even going through? And that's just something that is just, I don't know. It's interesting where our world is going today with having a good understanding of how to have a said proper relationship. It doesn't come down to playing with toys with the dog. It doesn't come down to giving treats and doing stuff with the dog. It comes down to just being with the dog. And it's something that we're just getting so far away from. And that's why I just see more dogs today that are just looking absolutely wild. When I see the people out here running, I just passed one right before I started this video. When I see the dogs out here on these trails, the people are running, the people are just on mission. These dogs rarely, especially these trails. The other trails I go to, the sidewalk, the paved ones, those are where I see the crazy dogs. Every day I see the crazy. I like going out there just to put my dogs in the mix of that, just to make sure that they are okay with the dog barking and growling in its face. But these trails out here, these back ones, I'd say 9 out of 10 of the dogs I see out here, nice dogs, because we're out doing stuff. We're just making it happen. We're just living. We're just out going for a walk. And the dogs are just living in their prime. Most dogs I see out here, they're all off leash, just running around right in front of people. They're hanging out, having a good time, and there's nothing crazy going on. And that's just the main thing that I want to say is the beauty. And again, majority of people out here, the dogs, they ain't got no treats on them, they got no toys on them, they just hanging out with the dog, just relaxing with the dog. Most people I see on the when I go downtown and see people's dogs, that the real nice looking dogs that are just walking along looking good, they got no toys on them, they got no treats on them, they just have a leash and a dog and a collar and a human being. And the dogs are nice looking. All the extraness is what's causing all the chaos. And it's something that, again, if you don't understand the drives of the dogs, you stop playing with them, stop trying to manipulate them, because you're leading your dog into frustration. Thank you.